We all have been there. We all have failed an exam. We all have been rejected from a job. We all had a bad breakup. We all had failed in a relationship. June 2021, I received the results for my oral surgery exit exam. And yes, I failed all the three components just below the passing mark. And I was alone then. I put my phone aside. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I sat there and I had many negative thoughts, a lot of things to think about, and starting to questioning myself, my career, my decisions. I started linking every mistake or every failure, every wrong decision to that exam results, as if I'm kind of identifying myself with that exam. We all have been there. We all have failed an exam. We all have been rejected from a job. We all had a bad breakup. We all had failed in a relationship. But why do we doubt ourselves after that? Why do we question ourselves? Why do we deal with failure in that negative way? And I had this conversation with my inner voice, Shouk, how I deal with my failure and how can I proceed with my life. And probably we have been identifying failure in a wrong way. Probably we have been identifying success in a different way. And also we all have been victims to the traps that our minds put in front of us. And we fail into these traps, not knowingly and unconsciously, where we are digging a deeper hole that is so impossible to come out of it. Today, I'm going to share this conversation with you, the conversation that I had with Shouk about how can we identify failure in a different way? How can we make failure as a ticket to our freedom? So first, we have the perfect life lie. Because of social media and the rhythm of our life these days, we are identifying life by what we can see on social media. We only assessing success or life by what people are presenting to us. So, for example, we can see someone who has a perfect life, perfect career, perfect relationship, and then we start comparing this with us. And that creates this a huge pressure, great burden on our shoulders that we need to achieve that. And this is a problem because life is not that perfect. Remember that chasing that perfect life is only going to make you exhausted and tired. It is a never-ending race that you will never truly win. The second problem is the fear of falling, the fear of not succeeding. And that fear is holding us back. That fear is freezing us. That fear is not letting us try again or try something new. Once you are stuck in that zone, it doesn't become a comfort zone. It becomes a miserable zone, really. And we convince ourselves that we are playing it safe. We are just avoiding risks. But actually, we're not enjoying the journey of life. This fear is a huge blocker. It blocks new ideas and blocks new experiences. True progress almost always means risking a fall. Problem 3. Once we are in that zone, in that stage, we find that fear starting to steal our happiness. And that's the problem with number 3. That because we have defined success in a very different way, we are now hopeless, miserable creatures that are afraid of trying something new or repeating something again because we're afraid from failing again, and we are stuck. And the issue there that once you are stuck there, you start sacrificing a lot of things. And at the end, you are in this dilemma of not aware of what actually makes you happy, what actually fulfill your life or your purpose of life. Now, let's define failure as Shouk and I have done. Chasing the wrong success probably will always make us feeling trapped. These ideas about success can really weigh us down. We need to take a different path, a path where failure is not the enemy, but it is the ticket for freedom. And this brings me to my favorite lesson that I ever learned. When we fall forward. Or we can say that we are falling to the top rather than falling to the bottom. If we are progressing and we are failing during that journey, it only means one thing: we are getting better. We are learning something new every time. And I think that sometimes we confused life by defining it to what we have achieved or the outcome or the end line or the result. But actually what we need to enjoy is the journey, is the progression, is the lifestyle. And I think that is the most favorite lesson to myself. You know, for a while I was running and I tried to do 5K runs and 10K runs and half marathon and a whole marathon. And I found that the joy is actually during the training, is that progression. Because after running for about few months, you run for a marathon, and an average person would aim to finish a marathon in 4 hours. But those 4 hours are not the joy. The joy was the whole few months training before that. The stumbles, the injuries, the diet, the clothes, running in the winter, in the summer, it is that journey. And it is only when you stop fearing from judgment and what people will say, or how can I face people after a failure, is when you start enjoying your journey. The problem is that we start focusing on what people would say, what people are going to judge us, and forget to enjoy our journey. And I think that's what makes the difference. And by the way, once you try to discourage this perfect image about yourself, this is when you start developing the courage to be more resilient, to be more acceptable about failing. And actually, that's what makes us humans. And I think that what opens new doors for us, new opportunities that you would never have seen if you didn't fail. Point number 3 about success is that you need always to remember that it is you, only you, that can define success. Only you can define success, not the world. Success is something relevant. For some people, success maybe means money, and for others, a good relationship, and for others is achieving a breakthrough invention, and for others is probably having kids and a family time all the time. So some people want a peaceful life, and that is success for them. And some people want a challenging, everyday, changing routine life. So you define success, not the world. This brings us to the last part of this topic, where I find myself discussing this with Shouk, and I find the traps that we always drag ourselves to once we are faced with an obstacle or a failure. And the very first common trap is self-doubt, or I would call it the unworthiness trap. And this is a very sneaky trap, because every time we hit an obstacle or something doesn't go our way, we're starting with these aggressive questions. Am I not good enough? Am I good enough? Am I doing the right thing? Do I really deserve that? Have I did something wrong? Am I being punished? And all of this negative energy is attacking us, and it's actually our mind. What happened when I failed that exams? It felt like from that bad moment, I started painting my whole entire life. I even started linking very little things to that moment, which is so bad. The big mountain trap. And that comes from actually the Greek methodology of Sisyphus, I think his name is called, where he's trying to push that huge rock over the mountain. And whenever we reach that setback or that obstacle, we start looking at it as if it's a huge mountain that's impossible to be climbed. Because we start looking at the problem as a huge thing, and we forget that we can actually plan it. So it took me to sit with Shouk to be able to start take a few steps back, and so I was like, okay, wait, what's going on here? I want you to stop thinking as if failure is the game over. If you are cooking a dish and you made one mistake, it doesn't mean to throw the whole thing out. No, it means to adjust the ingredient, cook again, and get it perfect. Everyone has mistaken a lot in their lives. Every inventor, every famous person has gone through mistakes before. The inventor of the KFC, Thomas Edison, has tried thousands of times. The CEO and the owner of Alibaba has been rejected by many people. No one gets it from the first time. A great example, which comes from sport. A basketball player will throw thousands shots every day to the basket just to get about 30 in a game. The fastest man in a 100-meter race, he runs the whole 4 years to run 10 seconds. It's not about one mistake. It's about progression and keep trying. There is no such thing as a failure. They are only lessons, and these lessons will eventually set you free. This journey of defining our success, our failures, looking when we are pushing ourselves into traps, needs courage, it needs resilience, but it leads to incredible freedom. And that's what we are looking for. It's about shifting the mindset, actually. That's what I figured out at the end. It's about being kind to yourself. It's about accepting and forgiving yourselves for mistaking, whatever the mistake is. Don't chase perfection, chase experience. And experience including falling forward. What does winning really mean to you? Not your parents, not your society, not your friends. What does winning mean to you? You will probably find peace and fulfillment when you start living your life on your own terms and chasing your own purpose. Remember, your unique path, which all up and down, is the most meaningful journey. So own it. Are you ready to start a life unburdened by failure? Are you ready to start looking at negative outcomes in a different way? Start small. What's the first failure that you probably would go today and think about, reframe it, and look at it in a different way? Or which trap have you fallen into, and now you can work yourself out of that? If you want to dive deeper in more confronting truths about our life and discuss further aspects of our lives, probably you will be interested to watch my other video where we try to silence our inner critics. And probably you will find the link up here or maybe here. Thank you for watching.